Ollie decided to visit a bookstore. He'd never seen this bookstore before. This was not in pandemic times, mind you. He'd been downtown, kind of near Mount Vernon. I've asked you to stop, so stop. You don't have to do it again, and I don't have to ask you again. Because a certain natural food store there has had at least really good deals on maple syrup. And not like the grade A stuff that you get at the regular grocery store, but the grade B stuff. And that's the really good stuff. The grading system confuses you. But you see, when you're talking about maple syrup, what you really want is the grade B. Because the grade A stuff is more highly pure. It's more just sweet. There's less of that mapley flavor. The grade B stuff, though, you get a lot more of that tree kind of a flavor, that wood-soaked, that almost whiskey-like maple flavor. So, that's a side point to this story. But if you have the opportunity to choose between grade A maple syrup and grade B maple syrup, you should always choose grade B maple syrup. But that was a tangent, and we'll move on now. Because while Ollie was going downtown to get the maple syrup that he really liked at a reasonable price, he noticed this bookshop that he'd never seen before. And it was called, with no subtlety, the Wizard's Bookshop. Now, a lot of people would assume that such a name was hyperbole, but Ollie had met wizards. Ollie had worked with wizards. Ollie had even helped out wizards. So he could make no such assumptions. Someone's fidgeting and needs to stop. Thank you. So he went into the bookshop because he figured most of his interactions with wizards have been interesting, at least. And he always likes a good bookshop. And there he was quite surprised to find a wizard that he knew. It was Phil, the wizard that he had helped out just a handful of months ago. He said, "Phil, you've got a new shop." He said, yes. I have gotten out of the business of selling magical artifacts. That whole thing was just way too much trouble. Too much power, all in one spot. Too many people after it, too many weird interactions. I had a magical wand set next to a magical vase, and their magic mingled, and suddenly there was just this massive pile of waffles, which isn't a problem for the first 2 waffles, but when you get 100 waffles in the middle of your floor. Anyway, the point is, I'm done selling magical objects. I'm selling books now. But there are a few magical books here. Oh, I said, really? I said, yeah. No, I've got some good stuff back here. I have learned my lesson. The magical books are kept in a separate area that I keep locked, and only customers I trust can go in there. I said, well, could I see the magic book area? Because wouldn't you want to see a magic book area? I would. And Phil said, yeah, sure, yeah, let's go back there. And so it was a little room off to the side of the rest of the shop. It wasn't a big shop. Another one of these shops in the basement of a row house. Maybe 700 square feet total. But this was in a back room. You picture a magic book room, and you picture something that's like dark and lit by candlelight and like musty and carpet. But no, this was nice. It was nice. It was well lit. The furniture was from IKEA. There's an old chair. But like not even like a fancy wizard chair. It was like a Pwang chair from IKEA. Anyway, I said, yeah, feel free to browse around. I'm going to be out front. I'm still figuring out this shop. I got to do some more inventory stuff. Just be careful, because the books here are magical books. But magical books, they tend to interact less than magical items. So Ollie started poking around and looking at things. And he saw a book that sort of looked familiar. It was pink in its binding, well, pink in its cover, with some gold details. And he pulled it out and he opened it up, and there was a bright flash of light. And Ollie found himself in a house. The house was unremarkable, but what was happening to the house was quite unusual. You see, it was spinning around in a tornado. I thought, well, that's strange. I mean, he thought that, but it was also terrifying, right? To be all of a sudden in a house flying around in a tornado. He went to the window, and there were thick things flying by, and wind and dust and dirt, and he had to close the window because it was getting in his eye. He was unclear at why the house was even standing still upright. There's no reason for it to, but it did. And after a few minutes, the house came crashing down, fell right out of the sky. Ollie, a bit dazed, exited the house. And there he saw, right to the left of the front door, a pair of legs, a pair of ruby red slippers attached to them. And leading into the ruby red slippers were red and white striped socks. And as he stood there looking, concerned, the socks deflated and rolled up, and the shoes dropped to the ground. So Ollie picked them up. Ollie doesn't generally wear shoes, but he thought, well, seems a lot. I better set these aside. And so he went out walking to explore where he landed. It was a strange place. Everything was very brightly colored. And it seemed as if, and he could be mistaken here, but it looked like a fair amount of the infrastructure, the light posts, the gates, even the houses were made of candy. Or at least they were styled that way. He walked around a bit confused, carrying the ruby shoes. And there came along a strange little man. I mean, littler than most adult humans, but still bigger than an octopus. He walked up to a tree, a regular tree, and he regarded it, and reached out and he touched it. And all of a sudden it changed in its appearance from being one of bark and leaves to being one of licorice and wintergreen mints. And the guy then picked up a rock, just a regular rock. Before all his eyes, it became a jelly bean. And I said, "Excuse me, sir." The guy said, "Yes, how can I help you?" "I seem to be a bit out of place." The man said, "Yes, that happens to a lot of us here. In fact, other than the natives, I'd say just about everyone here is a bit out of place. Good luck to you." And he ran off. Not in a hurry, but just at a brisk jog, as if he had someplace to be. Now Ollie had arrived at dusk. Soon the night fell. Ollie was surprised to see when it started to get dark that lights came on, but not street lights. Not hung on poles, but lights in the street lit up instead, like there were lights strung around the ground. It was actually very nice. It lit the way just as well as street lights might, but somehow felt more, inviting. He walked around and looked for a place that was open, where he could inquire as to where he'd been. And there was a little coffee shop, or maybe a pub, he couldn't quite tell, but he went inside, and there were a bunch of people, and they were all small, like the little man that had turned things into candy. And when he opened the door, they all stopped their conversations and looked. And then a young woman said, "An outsider. Hi." And all of a sudden, everyone was saying hi, and they were so very friendly. They gave Ollie they asked him if he wanted a coffee or a beer. He said a coffee, and he got a coffee, and it was good coffee. And there was so much hubbub, and he had to stop him and say, wait, hold on. Where are we? I said, well, we're in Oz, of course. How did you get here? He said, well, did you see the storm? I said, no. Was there a storm? I said, yeah, I was in a house. And it came crashing down and it smashed somebody, I'm not sure, and they left behind these ruby red slippers, and he held up the slippers, and all of a sudden everyone gasped. And they started chanting and singing in joy that the witch is dead, you've killed the witch is dead, ding dong, the witch is dead. He said, hold on, what did you just say? Said, ding dong, the witch is dead? I said, yeah, that seems for real though. I said, yeah. Why? It's just that there's a book that I've read, and in very similar circumstances, people started singing such a thing. I said, well, I can't speak to that, but thank you. The woman who wore those red slippers was an evil witch that had been oppressing the whole region. That's cool. I actually need to get back to my normal life, though. I'm not from here. And I said, well, you should go see the wizard. I said, are you serious? Did you just say go see the wizard? I did. I did say go see the wizard. Why? I said, nothing. It's fine. It's okay. Let me ask you, though. You mentioned that I killed one witch. Is there another witch? And one of the townspeople said, well, actually there's two other witches. The one you killed has... Sorry, one second. Has three sisters. Sorry, three sisters. And one of the sisters is also evil. The other two sisters, they're cool. I see where this is going. Tell you what, instead of telling me where the wizard lives, tell me where the other evil witch lives. I'll just go straight there. I don't understand. Why would you want to meet the other evil witch? I said, I've just got a feeling, and this place seems nice, but I've also got to get home. I've got some other stuff I've got to do today. I said, all right, well, yeah, I mean, do you see that big mountain peak? You can just barely see it in the sunset. He said, yeah. I said, well, it's about 30 miles off. But that's where she lives. And she's awful. So I'd be careful. And I wouldn't go there yet tonight. I hope you'll at least stay with us till the morning. I said, yeah. I mean, sure, that seems reasonable. I can't travel 30 miles up a mountain in the dark. So, yeah, why not? I said, well, you finished your coffee. Would you like a beer? And Ollie laughed and he said, all right. And so Ollie spent the night with the lovely people there. And in the morning he woke up and set off. And they were so kind as to furnish him with a donkey to ride. And that made things much faster. He also asked them, I would like, it would be much helpful in my journey if you could give me several flasks of water. He said, you see, I'm an octopus, and I got to stay wet, but also I've got a hunch this might be useful. So they gave him a bunch of flasks of water. They had that around, some wine skins that they filled with water. And off Ollie went to the mountain. The donkey was fast, unreasonably fast. And he got there later that day. He knocked on the door. And the guard answered, who is it? Who comes here? So the name's Ollie. Need to speak to the witch. I said, what? Okay, I get, no one ever says that. Okay, you want to speak to the witch. I says, yes I do. And as they went and got the witch, Ollie took a cup, a large cup, about a 2-pint cup that he brought with him from where he'd stayed, and he started filling it up with water from the flasks. Soon the guard came back and said, all right, yeah, she'll see you. She's a little surprised to have a visitor. She doesn't get a lot of visitors, but yeah, come on in. And he opened the door. And the guard let him through. And there was a tower room. And there was In the tower room was nice room, chairs and couches and a big crystal ball in the middle. And there sat a green woman, dressed very much like a stereotypical witch, with a pointy black hat and a long black dress. And she said, "Well, who comes to seek me?" I says, "It's I, Ollie the octopus." And he came right up to her without even saying another word. He dipped one of his tentacles in the water and tapped her hand with it. There it burned. It sizzled. He said, "Ah! What is this madness? What is this madness? Don't worry about that sizzling noise. Why? What do you want? Why have you come here?" Oh, I said, "Truth is, I don't want any trouble. I just want to go home. I want to go home to Baltimore, which is in Maryland. It's probably far away from here. But I feel like you know the secret how to get home. Here, I've got these ruby slippers. They came off of your sister, so give me the deal. I don't need to do this whole storyline. I just need to get home." And the witch thought about it for a minute, as the sizzling on her hand stopped. This wasn't what she was expecting. But she also saw the big pitcher of water in his hand. And she knew that if he threw that pitcher of water on her, that would be the end of her. Just as it sizzled her hand, it would melt the rest of her too. She said, all right, no need for trouble. You've got the secret right there in your hand. You're an octopus, so it will look a little strange. But if you want to go home, put those slippers on your feet, on your tentacles, I guess. Tap the heels together and say, "There's no place like home. No place like home." Just keep saying that. And you'll go home. And you don't have to worry about me, or munchkins, or witches, or wizards. It'll send you right back home to where you belong. And we don't have to have any more trouble. And I said, all right. That does sound familiar now that you mention it. I said, what do you mean it sounds familiar? I don't understand. I said, never mind. I feel like I read it in a book once. And he put the slippers on and he tapped the heels together and he said, "No place like home." Thank you, by the way. There's no place like home. Tap, tap, tap. There's no place like home. Tap, tap, tap. There's no place like home. And the world went blue. And then the blue faded. And he opened his eyes, and there he was, lying on the floor of the room. And Phil, the wizard, standing over him, waving him with a fan. Like a folded up piece of paper turned into a fan. And, Ollie, dude, are you okay? Yo, Ollie, you fainted. Ollie, are you alright? And I shook his head and said, "Phil, that book, the pink one. You might need to put some protection on that. It's got, if you touch that, Phil said, oh, yeah, that one. I should. Yes. That one knocks you out and gives you very strange dreams. You got to do a whole incantation to pick that one up." And I said, yeah. Tell me, does it give everyone the same dream? I said, yes. I don't know what it is, because I haven't had the courage to go there myself, but everyone gets the same dream. Would you tell me about what you saw? I said, I'll tell you about what I saw, but I've got a price. I said, okay, what's your price? I said, I want a cup of coffee. And then I'll tell you everything I saw. And so that's exactly what they did. And that was Ollie and the case of the magical book.